Are you a fan of these? I am talking about pattern magazines. I have plenty of those from different brands, and in today's video I figured I should do a review of the different pattern magazines that I use and give you my thoughts about them, the pros and the cons. So that's what we're going to talk about today. First up is the Finnish pattern magazine Ottobre, which comes out in 7 issues each year, including kids, women and family themed issues. I've noticed that Ottobre has acquired quite a bit of a cult following around the world, and I can assume that that's because Ottobre is really good at doing the sort of casual, basic, simple line garments that looks really nice and are well drafted, but usually not overly complicated. And especially I would say that they excel when it comes to knit garments, and they usually have a really nice range in each issue, well drafted tops and other type of casual looks. As for the instruction, just like most pattern magazine, you can expect primarily written instructions. I would say they're fairly detailed, but they do lack in the illustration instruction area. Usually you can just see a couple of pictures of specific seam instructions, but apart from that, you're pretty much left to using the written instructions. Another good thing about Ottobre is the fact that they have a large size range. It goes from 34 to 56 for female, and usually each pattern has 8 sizes, which is pretty much unheard of when you compare to most other pattern magazines, perhaps with the exception of Knip Moody. So that is another thing that's really good about Ottobre. As for the men, most sizes range between 46 and 56. If you like some ease and really comfortable fit, then definitely Ottobre is for you. Knip Moody is a Dutch pattern magazine that has become increasingly popular in the last few years, and the one I'm showing here is actually called Fashion Style, which is the German edition of the Dutch magazine Knip Moody. And it comes out with 12 issues each year, and there's, as I said, a Dutch and a German edition. The size range is usually between 34 and 54, and they mostly draft for females. And one thing to know about Knip Moody is that the body type that they draft for is taller than the other European pattern magazines. So the body length of Knip Moody is 172 centimeters, which is fairly tall, and compare that to other pattern magazines who usually has a size height of 168 centimeters. As for the styles, I would say they're very contemporary with some really fashion forward styles and often really interesting detailing. That's one of the reasons why I really find Knip Moody a very appealing option to other pattern magazine. And from what I can tell so far of what I've made from the magazine, they're somewhat fitted, but definitely has some comfort ease. I think the fit is pretty close to a lot of ready-to-wear garments, especially here in Sweden, so that gives you a hint of what to expect when you make the garments. Again, the instructions are primarily written, but they're relatively detailed, and they're also in each issue usually a couple of illustrated instructions as well. But just like most pattern magazine, the focus is on written instructions. And now for my personal favorite, which is Burda Style magazine, German powerhouse that has been around for decades, and it's currently published in 17 languages from what I can tell from my research. And what I really like about Burda Style is that the styles are very fashion forward with lots of detailing and interesting pattern construction, and that is what I personally am more drawn to when it comes to sewing. And don't worry if you haven't tried Burda Style, because in each issue there will always be several easy to sew styles as well. So it's not that everything is super hard, but there's usually a couple of patterns in each issue which is really intricate, such as tailored jackets and similar quite complicated garments. And the sizing for women runs between 34 and 52. That said, there's usually only about 5 sizes for each style, and men is usually between 46 and 54, but men is usually only in a couple of issues each year. And speaking of sizes, one thing that sets Burda Style apart is that in each issue there will usually be 1 or 2 garments for a tall person and 1 or 2 garments for a petite person. So there are definitely more options than your most pattern magazine. Now we're going to return to the Nordic countries, because in Denmark they also publish a pattern magazine that has been around a long time. It's called Håndarbeide or Symagasin, and they usually make patterns for female and children. Plus, most issues always have some type of home decorating projects as well. And they come out with 12 issues each year, and I think there's a Danish, Swedish and Norwegian issue, but perhaps it's actually translated in more languages as well. I'm not 100% sure. As for the style, I would say they're quite simple and casual. In fact, I would say, if I do a comparison, I would say the Ottobre is the closest cousin to Håndarbeide. Now, I personally think that Håndarbeide could have benefit for a bit more fashion forward styles for my liking, but if you're really into basics and want to let the fabric speak, plus another thing that I think a lot of people will appreciate about Håndarbeide is the fact that they usually have nice amount of ease. So if you don't like your clothes to be too fitted, then definitely Håndarbeide's patterns are for you. For me, I like my styles a bit more fitted, so I sometimes find myself going down one size just to make sure that they fit the way I want it to. The instructions, I would say that they are probably the shortest of all the pattern magazines. They're very rudimentary. Then again, most patterns that is published in Håndarbeide are actually quite simple, so you don't really need very complicated instructions. They usually have a couple of illustrated step-by-step instructions as well, but they are definitely not the major part of the instructions. And last but perhaps not least is the classic Spanish pattern magazine Patrones, which also I think has a bit of a cult following. It comes out with 12 issues each year. As for the styles, I would describe them as contemporary and elegant. Oftentimes, especially in the past, they were heavily inspired by specific designer garments. I've noticed that has changed in recent years, but you can still see a lot of garments that looks more like they were made for ready to wear rather than the home sewing community. So there's a little bit of confusion about that. So if someone has more knowledge about the history of Patrones and how come that is, I would love to know. I remember back in the early 2000s at least, they used to have specific brand names. So you can, for instance, sew a Versace dress, a Gucci dress. They have removed those brand names now. Perhaps there was some infringement issues. I would love to know, but still they are very much moved more to the designer ready-to-wear style more than perhaps traditional home sewing. As for the sizes, well, they do run between 36 and 58. That said, the size range on each pattern is quite limited. I think usually most sizing, in fact, most garments only come in like 3 or 4 sizes in each issue. Another thing that I don't really like about Patrones' sizing system is that they usually skip one size. So, for instance, a garment will have perhaps size 36, 40 and 44, which obviously makes it harder to find the right size. And also good to know is that the sizing in Southern Europe is actually smaller than in Northern Europe, so a size 36 in Patrones actually equals to a size 34 in German and Scandinavian pattern magazines. So that's always good to know if there is a bit confusion about that. And also, perhaps not surprisingly, the styles are more fitted than, say, the pattern magazine from Northern Europe, such as Ottobre and Håndarbeide. I hope you enjoyed this roundup of pattern magazines. Stay tuned for part 2, where I will talk more about other pattern magazines, including one Japanese and a few more from Europe. And as you probably already guessed, one of my favorite pattern magazine edition is Burda style, and I've actually dedicated lots of videos to that topic, including how to use the Burda style magazine and some of my favorite patterns from that magazine. So links to that playlist is in the description section, so you can check that out if you want to delve more into Burda style, and of course a lot of the other makes I've done from various pattern magazines. Stay safe, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye!